Call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. Keith, would you lead us in the pledge to the flag, please? Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call a roll, please.
Keith Bratcher.
Here.
Joe Crowell.
Here.
Gary Sartain.
Here.
Joe Machado.
Here.
Michael Rather.
Here.
Jared Barrett.
Here.
Dane Cantrell.
Present.
All voting members are present. We do have a quorum, sir.
If you will notice, we have a new public address system, and I think we will be able to hear each other when we speak from now on. So hopefully I won't have to use these earpieces so much as I've had to in the past, because I couldn't pick up maybe every third word I would miss. So maybe our communications will be a little better. And I know some of you were having the same problem. We have the minutes of our last meeting. Do I have any changes or additions to those minutes? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. It is approved. Couple of things. For those of you that are here tonight, we thank you for being here. We want to hear everything that you might have to say. Let's try to keep our comments within the 3-minute range that we asked. We have reviewed all of these applicants, and we pretty well understand what's being requested. And at the appropriate time, we'll ask those of you who are here for the public hearing section to come to the podium and give us any other information that you'd like to share with the board before we make a decision. First item of business, one other announcement. Remember, this is an abbreviated meeting because we didn't have the proper applications in to us at the time. So we will be back on our regular schedule next month. So put that on your agenda. And also for the board members, we have a training session on the November the 4th. That's on Friday. For those of you who can make that, we'll try to, as you know, there are 4 hours required before January for you to be approved as BZA members. So we need to get that 4 hours in. And most of you can do a lot more than that, but I understand we need to try to be at this training session if at all possible. The first item of business we have is a request by Reese Ramsey and Mildred Parker. And what do you have on that?
Okay, application 2011-58 filed by Reese Ramsey and Mildred Parker involves the property located at 2926 Halls Hill Pike. It's a 1.77 acre parcel located in a residential 15 zone. And Ms. Parker is seeking conditional use permit to allow a type B mobile home on the parcel. It's less than 5 acres, so that requires the type B mobile homes to obtain conditional use approval. Resolution. The site is vacant at this point, but there was a home located on the property years ago. It's been removed. Ms. Parker has made sure that the septic soils on the site can accommodate the installation of a type B mobile home. And reviewed the surrounding area, and it consists of built homes as well as single-wide mobile homes. So the presence of an additional type B mobile home should not deter adjacent properties from developing within the zoning regulations that are established. And this is the site across the street that has multiple type B mobile homes located on it. I believe that it's grandfathered because there are no zoning files on it. And I'm just going through some additional photos of the surrounding area and roadway. We've not received any phone calls in opposition or even informational calls regarding this application, and staff recommends approval subject to conditions.
Do we have anyone present who's representing this request? If you'll please come forward to the podium.
Parker, this is Reese Ram.
Okay, do you have any other information you want to share with the
We
board?
had it though, where the septic
Please
tank.
talk into the microphone.
The septic tank has been approved for this. And when she gets out there, people's been going on the property, dumping illegal. We have to go out there and clean the thing up. We have put no trespassing signs up. And if we could get a mobile home in there, Reese can get out there, they'll stop a lot of the dumping, and she's got, you know, it will be kept clean.
Do we have any questions from the board? Thank you very much. You may be seated.
Thank you.
We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Do we have a motion on
I
it?
make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to be approved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion on this? Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Dane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
The next item we have is a request by Sherman Conger, who's requesting a conditional use permit to establish a produce stand, and this is in an industrial zone. What do you have on that?
Okay. Application 2011-60 filed by Sherman Conger involves the property located at 5630 Lebanon Pike. It's an industrial zone property. It's 7.61 acres, and it's currently being used for industrial purposes, I believe as a plumbing business. And Mr. Conger would like the opportunity to sell produce from this particular site on a temporary stand. So this is a temporary type 2 conditional use permit. And it would be set to expire, could not last longer than a year. So he is now applying for approval from the board. Mr. Conger applied for the application, he indicated a location on the site, and you'll see in the future aerial. But we went and posted the sign on the property, and he was located in the right-of-way. At that time, we told him he could not be located in the right-of-way and that the stand needed to be removed from the right-of-way. So Mr. Conger is fully aware that he would not be able to locate his stand where you see the pictures now. And this is photos of the surrounding area, the bridge, and towards the Jefferson-Lebanon intersection. And then this is the existing site. And this aerial, you'll see the little red box and the arrow pointing to it. That's where Mr. Conger indicated the stand would be on the site. And staff recommends approval subject to conditions.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? Okay, I'll entertain a motion on this since this is a produce stand and it's in an industrial zone. Why don't we have a motion on it one way or the other, and then we can discuss it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to be approved.
Have a motion to be approved.
I second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Have a second. Any questions to the staff or any more discussion on it?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. I'm familiar. I live out this area. I've seen you there. So I know where he normally was at, like you said, in the right away. But it looks like he's just going to move it back there and be more in the parking lot area.
That's correct. I mean,
Okay.
we could not. We don't even have jurisdiction over that, the right-of-way, the state right-of-way. And he's aware that he would need to remove it from the roadway.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll open this for a public hearing. Do we have anyone here who'd like to speak on this request? Close the public hearing. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Call the roll, please. Is there any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Dane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
The next item we have is a request by Thomas King, and he's requesting a conditional use permit to allow establishment of an accessory structure. What do you have on this?
This application 2011-61, filed by Thomas King, involves property located off of Betty Ford Road, and the lot area is 4.35 acres, and it's vacant. Mr. King owns an adjacent property. His residential property is located adjacent to this parcel, but it fronts on Sanford Drive. And he would like to place a 1,500 square foot building on the property, close to the adjacent property line with his residential property, for personal storage, not in association with the business. But because there is no principal building established on this site, he has to get conditional use approval for the accessory structure prior to the principal. So this is an aerial of the subject site, access to the site, and probably for the purposes of building the personal storage building will be from Betty Ford Road. There are 2 vacant parcels adjacent to the driveway access or the connection point to Betty Ford, but we have received phone calls from people, a lady who lives adjacent to this property, and she did not indicate any problems with the proposed request. The building will probably not be seen from Betty Ford Road. That's the access to the site. And then surrounding properties, and across the street you have the river. Staff recommends approval with conditions.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? You'll come around, please, to the podium. You'll give us your name and any additional information you'd like to share.
I'm Thomas King. My proposal is to build a storage building in my hayfield for my antique tractor and plow that I plowed with as a boy. There will be no utilities, no water, electricity, septic needed. My access to the building will be minimal. The building will have ivory walls and trim, charcoal roof, which will blend with a lot of the architecture in the neighborhood. I have some computer-generated pictures if you would like.
If you'd just share them with our secretary, please.
I also have one letter from a neighbor who couldn't be here this evening. Yeah.
Any questions from the board? Looks like you've answered all of our questions. Thank you so much.
Letter read.
Yes, she keeps that. Put that for the record.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. If you'll come around, please. Give us your name and any additional information to the board.
Hi, my name's Glenn Littlepage. I live at 3664 Sanford Drive. My property is immediately adjacent to the area where the barn will be located, probably 30 yards maybe, and we're very happy to have it there. We have no problems at all.
Any questions from the board? Thank you. Appreciate that information. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to be approved. Have a second.
Second.
The Twin Joes. Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Dane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
The next item is a request by Amanda Olgen, who is requesting a conditional use permit to establish a daycare. What do you have on that, please?
Application 2011-62, filed by Amanda Olgen, involves the property located at 241 Faldo Drive. It's a .75 acre parcel located in a residential 15 zone, and she is seeking conditional use permit to establish a daycare for up to 7 children in the R15 zone. Ms. Olgen would like to operate the daycare from her home. She understands that she would have to obtain Department of Human and Health Services from the state of Tennessee permission to operate a daycare and operate within the standards established by that department. She's not making any structural alterations to the home to accommodate the proposed use. The hours for the proposed daycare will be from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and she proposes to have 1 employee in addition to her working at the daycare. So we've not received any phone calls in opposition or any informational calls regarding this request. This is the structure that the daycare would be operated out of. It appears to have adequate playground area, but I also believe that the state regulates that as well. Adjacent properties, sorry for the slow. Located towards the end of Faldo Drive, where it stubs out, where there may be future development. Does not look like anything's planned for the immediate future. There's a large vacant parcel located across the Faldo Drive from her residence, and you can see the stub out. Posted the sign on the property. One neighbor adjacent to her. This is the area for which they would be able to pull up and back up without having to back out onto Faldo Drive. And so we found that that was adequate for what she was requesting, and we recommend approval subject to the conditions.
Do we have someone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please.
Yes, sir.
You'll give us your name and any additional information.
My name is Amanda Olguin. I have been in the early childhood education field for 18 years now. I've managed and directed a large program here in Murfreesboro for the last 10. I have since decided that philosophically my views match more doing the in-home because you are able to nurture and provide one-on-one. The driveway in the pictures, there was some mulch and some other things that has since been cleared out to accommodate a turnaround area for parents.
The backyard, I couldn't tell exactly, but all of that is fenced in, the play area.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have almost an acre, and it's all fenced in.
Okay. And you've taken care of, you've had child care before?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do you have any children there at this particular time?
Yes, sir. I do have the 4 children that I'm allowed by law without
Okay.
a license.
And then you're going to expand to 7 if you can. Okay. Any other questions? Keith?
Yes, ma'am. So you've been approved by the state other than for the daycare, other than having the zoning approved?
I have been in contact with the state. They have been at my residence to check things out. Of course, they can't go any further until this is taken care of, but yes.
Okay. And they say no problems with what you had set up?
No,
Okay.
no, none whatsoever.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Joe?
The only concern I have is right now you don't have any traffic on that road, but later on, if that does expand, is making sure that people don't back out on the road, you know. That's the only concern that I would have. You don't just make sure that your clients know that they need to turn around to pull out.
Yes, sir. We actually plan to add that to our parent handbook so that parents are aware of the proper entrance and departure procedures.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Do we have a motion on it? Jerry?
Move to be approved.
Have a motion to be approved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Call a roll, please.
Keith Bratcher,
Yes.
Joe Crowell,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
The next item we have is a request by Monty Turner, who's requesting a conditional use permit to establish a general store in the C2 zoning district. What do you have on that, please?
Application 2011-63, filed by Monty Turner, involves the property located at 6620 Las Casas Pike. It's a 3.4-acre parcel that is zoned commercial 2, and they are seeking conditional use permit to establish a general store on this site. The site has been zoned commercial since 1979, and the existing structure was previously used as a pharmacy. The site was also used as a model home sales office. If this is approved, the existing building will be relocated or demolished, both of the buildings that are located on the site. This particular request, since it involves the construction of a new building, commercial building, and related parking, will have to go through the site plan review process that will ultimately fall in the hands of the Planning Commission for its final approval before it can receive any permits to be constructed. But before it can be presented to the Planning Commission, the conditional use permit needs to be approved. This is slightly different than the Dollar Generals that have been developed recently in the past because those properties were not zoned commercial. This property is already zoned commercial, has been since 1979. It has been used for a model home sales office as well as the pharmacy. So if a pharmacy wanted to locate in the structure or rebuild a new building on the site, they could easily come in without having to go before any public hearing process apart from just the final site plan review, which does not involve public hearing. So these are pictures of the site, the buildings that will be removed, the surrounding area. This is the adjacent residence, adjacent through the Lofton Road side. And the access will be proposed off the Lofton Road. We have received phone calls. One specifically left a message that they were in opposition, and an informational phone call that they were not in from another gentleman who's not in opposition but has concerns about the access point off the Lofton Road. And the posted speed limit here is 30, so we took a picture of that. Across the street you have the creek or river, and this comes out at the intersection of Canesville Pike, Las Casas, and Lofton Road. So you have those three roadways. The proposal also was found to be in compliance with the comprehensive plan that was recently adopted by the Planning Commission. Front yard, side yard, and rear yard regulations appear to be met by the conceptual site plan. So it appears that they're not going to have any issues developing within the current zoning regulations. And there are fire hydrants, which provides fire protection within 1,000 feet, which you saw in one of the photos. It's actually on the site. And staff recommends approval subject to conditions.
Let me remind everyone here, the only thing that the Board of Zoning Appeals will be dealing with in this is whether it's an appropriate site or not. We don't decide the site plan. We're not making a decision on the site plan. This is one of a number of meetings that it'll have to go through before it reaches final approval. What we will decide is if this is an appropriate site for this type of activity. We cannot change or deal with the road entrance or exits and all of these kinds of things. It'll have to go to the Planning Commission for that. So just a reminder of those of you who may be interested, and also the board. So we'll be deciding whether this is appropriate site for what they're requesting. Do we have anyone here that's representing this request? If you'll come around, please.
Thank you, Chairman, board members. I'm Monty Turner with Turner & Associates Realty out of Nashville, Tennessee, the developer for the proposed Dollar General store here at Lofton and Highway 96. Same size store that we've built in Rutherford County over the last couple of years. It's 9,000 feet. When we're fortunate enough to be able to have a corner lot, in this instance, we chose Lofton Road for an access point because it carries a lot less traffic than Highway 96 and lends itself to an access point right where we have it shown on the site plan. We feel it's a much better option. For those of you that are interested, these stores on average will attract roughly 10 to 15 cars per hour. And it's a 14-hour open. They're open for business 14 hours, so roughly about 230, 240 cars per day, but it averages to 10 to 15 per hour, or about one every 4 or 5 minutes. So it's a pretty low-intense commercial use. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? Thank you. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. You'll come forward now.
I live at 6833 Lofton Road, one property removed from this proposed site on Lofton Road. I've lived there for 25 years. I am in opposition to this site, in particular the plan to put the entrance and exit lanes on Lofton Road. Since I've lived there, I have seen Lofton Road change from a road where we could walk the 3-mile round trip to Browns Mills Gate, touch it, turn around, and walk back to the house and maybe never see another car. Now it's a racetrack pretty much. There's a subdivision with approximately 80 homes near the end of that road, and it has gotten to be very treacherous. In the last couple of years, there have been a fatal accident, a near-fatal accident where an individual was life-flighted to Vanderbilt. The day before Thanksgiving last year, there was a head-on collision in front of my house where the car, one of the cars involved lost a wheel, careened on its axle into my driveway, taking part of my asphalt driveway with it. That's going to be a real problem. It's not as though we're underserved when it comes to Dollar General stores. There is one 5 miles away on Lascassas Highway. Hasn't been there very long. I stop there and shop sometimes myself. Anybody who lives in that area at some point has to go to the grocery store, like the Kroger's, the Food Lion, and they have to pass right by this store. We clocked it tonight. There's another store in Walter Hill community that is 6 miles from that site. I think at some point you have to consider that overkill. We are concerned about the loss of our rural environment. That's why I moved to Lascassas. It's peaceful, it's quiet, it has grown a lot, but it retains a lot of the flavor that's so appealing to a lot of people. And I know you can't stop progress, you can't stop growth, but I think this is an inappropriate use of that space. I realize it was commercial when I moved there 25 years ago. That doesn't mean we have to accept having a a business like that kind of crammed down our throats, something that's going to obviously affect our property values, where they already haven't been affected by the recession. If I were looking to buy a house out there, I wouldn't buy my house if it had a Dollar General store sitting that close to it. I'm worried about the environmental impact. It sits on a pristine, free-running creek that runs into the Stones River where we all get our water supply. It floods periodically. It flooded 2 days in a row when they had the big Nashville flood. When it does so, it comes about 20 feet up in my yard. We can't get in or out of the place, and paving that large an area, I can't help but feel like it's going to have an impact on how much water collects on the properties that are downhill from it, which are mine and my neighbor's properties. I wonder if something like this doesn't need an environmental impact study done before it's approved. Like I said, I worry about our property values. I guess in closing, I would just ask that you consider whether or not, given that our homes are our biggest investment, the biggest ones we'll ever make in our lives, would you want one that close to your home? I just want you to take that in consideration.
Wait just a minute and see if there's any questions. Board, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Ms. Mundy. I just got a few questions. So you're telling me that you are opposed to the Dollar General store, period?
In particular, the use of Lofton Road for an entrance and 2 exit lanes.
Okay.
Think about what would happen if the semis, I assume, that deliver the stock there.
Yes, ma'am.
That road has no shoulders.
Okay.
It has no room for shoulders.
But I'm just trying to find out what your position is. Are you would not be opposed to the store? Are you just opposed to the exit and the entrance being on Lofton Road?
I would prefer not to have the store, but
Okay.
if it has to be there, Lofton Road is not a good site for it.
I understand. Why I have you up here, I just got a question for our staff, and maybe you can answer this. This property's already zoned commercial, and you said it has been for 20 or 30 years. And I know right now it's approved for had the pharmacy there. But under the current zoning, commercial zoning, what else could be there without them? You'd said if a pharmacy wanted to come in there, they would not have to come before any public. What else could come there based upon this being a commercial site without having to come before us? No, I'm just asking our staff.
Gotcha.
Well, the way our current zoning resolution is structured, it does not contain a list of permitted uses or conditional uses like you would find in others. However, any of the conditional uses that were not specifically abandoned by a later conditional use that was approved. So I'm assuming the model home sales office as well as the pharmacy would be any use that was similar to that or the same in nature could establish on the property and be subject to the conditions of those conditional use permits. So the way our current zoning is structured, as we're reviewing our new zoning resolution, with every zoning district, you would have a list of uses that would be permitted by right, and it was determined to be compatible for the area in that zoning district. So,
Joe?
Let me understand this. From what I can understand, that it's approved for a pharmacy right now, so a Walgreens or Rite Aid or whatever pharmacy could come in and build a building in there without coming before us at all.
that's correct.
Well, their site plan would have to go before the planning commission.
Well, the site plan would go
site
before the planning
Yeah.
commission, but that's
But as far as come to us, it would not. Okay.
would not require a
Remember,
public
this
hearing.
site plan, we're not approving the site plan, okay?
Well,
That will still give you an opportunity to talk about that site plan.
Right. Yeah, I still have a few other comments. I was just trying to make the point, Ms. Mundy. I was just really trying to just understand what your position was. But I was also wanting to know, kind of let you, and I know some other folks that are concerned about this. I live in the Las Casas area, so I'm very familiar with the site. I just want to kind of let you all know that what possibly could come there without it even coming before us. So, the Dollar General store there being there, I mean, to me is not issue one way or the other. I'm just wanting you all to know that you live right in there in that area, and just like they said, it's a pharmacy, so it still had to go through site approval, but it wouldn't have to come here. And if a Walgreens or a Rite Aid or anybody wanted to come there, it's already approved for a pharmacy. So I'm just kind of letting you all know that something else could come there because it's a commercial piece of property that may not be as suitable to you all as a Dollar General. So I'm just trying to make that point.
Why are we here discussing this? If something else wouldn't even have to come before it.
Joe, you had a question.
Daniel, I got a question. There's 75 names on this petition. How many call-ins did you have in against this store?
Well, I only spoke to one gentleman personally, and it was not necessarily a call in opposition. He had concerns with the access points, but he was not opposed to the use being located on the site. I believe Mr. DeMasi, my director, received one call and a message who someone left in opposition of the request, and I know that he spoke to Commissioner Black today.
Did Commissioner Black recommend it?
No, I don't know if he indicated any position. I was under the impression he may be here tonight, but I don't believe he indicated he was in opposition of the Dollar General.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Michael?
I want to clarify something that may answer a question that you just asked. This property has been zoned commercial property since 1979. Most recently, over the last several years, it was approved for the use of a pharmacy. Okay, so right now it's a standing use as a pharmacy. The reason it's here before this board is because that use is changing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're here to vote to determine whether this use is compatible for this location. Now, beyond this, and our chairman alluded to this earlier, beyond us is really where you get into the meat of things, where you begin to talk about the site plan. I think there may be a signage issue at some point based on what the site plan currently is. And then you can get into discussions about where the entrance is it located too close to 96, or can it be moved backwards? Can it be put out on 96? That's where you really get into the details of the site. Right now, we're looking at just changing the use of what's already zoned as commercial, changing the use from what's currently says pharmacy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Does that answer your question?
You're not here to decide where you come and go, right?
We're not here to do that. That's the next meeting, as our chairman alluded to. There's a series of meetings that will come after tonight that really get into the meat of this proposal.
Okay, we've discussed this enough right now. Let's see if anyone else would like to come up, okay? Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Anyone else would like to speak on this? If you'll come forward, please.
My name is Tom Osborne. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association of the 74 homes she was referring to. You guys are discussing whether the property should be changed to use. The gentleman had come up and said that it was only 14 cars per hour. We have less than 100 homes on that street. So it's a major impact. It's going to quadruple just to 200 cars a day that he's talking about only. Well, if you're talking about 96, it's one thing to have 200 more cars. You're putting 200 more cars on a little tiny road with no shoulder, it's going to impact it greatly. We already have problems with getting out in the morning there because there's no light or anything to allow traffic to flow. We already have accidents nonstop on that road. As an impact of it, a tractor and trailer cannot turn in that where he's at right now. If the tractor and trailer does try to turn in there, it's going to be a problem. So if it's a blank, black or white, yes or no, I can tell you our whole homeowners association is not in for putting that up there. It's not, we're not changing it from the little, you had said something about putting a CVS or something. The Las Casas Drugs was not the equivalent of CVS. They took care of, the little old lady's prescriptions up close and, so they didn't have to run to town. I bet you they didn't have 25 customers all day long. I don't think I've ever seen in 6 years that they were there, them having more than 3 cars in that parking lot at once, and probably 2 of them were socializing. So, it is a major impact on that, and it's not just about whether it's a Dollar General, it's about you're putting a major commercial as opposed to a mom and pop company in there.
Wait just a minute. Any questions from the board? Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Yes, come around, sir.
My name's Bob Speck, and I live at 6832 Las Casas Highway. And my property comes right up to the back of the property that we've been discussing tonight. And the situation comes that over the years that I've worked for the police department, I've worked several accidents. And there at Lofton and Highway 96 is absolutely, we've had a number of accidents happen at that location. The thing of it is that we've had vehicles come off of Highway 96, come all the way through Tim Brown's front yard and hit the post that was showed earlier up there, the sign for Las Casas. I mean, just absolutely demolished it. Me and Tim both go back and forth up there when something happens. And you can hear the accident. When we get there, we stay there. Somebody like the county comes to take care of that problem. But the thing of it is, on Lofton Road, Lofton is a big problem as far as the traffic. It's like Miss Mundy said, and I go 100% on this. It's not a road that you would want to use for the purpose of a tractor trailer or any kind of vehicle. It's just wide enough as it is for what we're using it for now. If you were going to do something, and I talked earlier to people in the planning commission and talked to one of the engineers, if you're going to do something and you were going to put the dollar store there, I think if you could come off Highway 96, if you could come off of there and come in just like the store you've got further into town on Highway 96, I think that would be good. You wouldn't have the problem with the traffic, none whatsoever, on Lofton Road anymore. And the thing of it is, I think whatever they were going to unload, whatever they were going to do, they would be able to do it. It wouldn't be that big of a problem with the traffic. Now, my property runs right up behind there. We have a major problem with water, as Ms. Mundy spoke a while ago. We have seen the creek completely up to the back of that drugstore. Now, you get a lot of things going in there. You start doing a lot of things, gentlemen and ladies, you're going to have a problem. And we've had problems out there. I've had the water all the way up to my garage on Lofton Road. I've lost my fences. I've had to tear them down. But the thing of it is, dealing with the site that's proposed for the general store, are they going to have that type problem? As the engineers looked at it, have they sought through it? We don't really know that much about it. But all I can say, is to have the store and have it there, I think would be a real convenience, to a whole lot of elderly people, young people, You got people coming from Milton, Las Casas, Canesville, and even coming back from town. And I think the store would do good. I think that it would help a lot of people out, especially just to go pick up something, not have to ride all the way back to town to do that. But honestly, I just think that it's going to be a bad situation and a bad problem if you deal with Lofton Road, because we've saw so many there, and it's just not gonna, it's not feasible, gentlemen and ladies, to deal with that at all. But that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Is Dale Corbett still here?
Yes, he is.
I have a question for him if he'd come
Okay,
up.
let's wait until we, Steve, do you have more information you'd like to share with us?
Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Steve Steele with Huddleston Steel Engineering here in Murfreesboro. I am working with Mr. Turner on this project, planning to speak in that most of the issues that I'm hearing are issues that will be dealt with when a site plan is presented to the Planning Commission. But with your permission, I might mention a few things might make a difference. I've heard concerns about drainage. This site is above the 100-year flood elevation as established by FEMA. The front of the lot and all of the improvements that are proposed to be made, the parking lot, the building, will be in that area. We're also going to have a stormwater detention pond that will control both the quantity and the quality of the runoff. I can stand here and tell you quite comfortably that what we're proposing to do will have no adverse impact on the quality or quantity of stormwater in that area. We can't solve the problem of the creek in that area, but we're not going to contribute to that either. I know you're generally thinking about use, is this appropriate, and you're thinking about the impact on neighbors and their homes. One thing I would like to mention, we will have to put in a landscape buffer of trees and bushes around on the west and the south side of this property to buffer the neighboring residential property. I don't know if you have seen the development out on John Bragg Highway east of town, but the trees and bushes are substantial as required by the zoning ordinance, and that's a pretty good example. Thirdly, I've heard quite a bit of talk about traffic, and one thing to consider here, Lofton Road terminates into Las Casas Pike. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that happen up and down Lofton Road, like any road in our county. But most people better be slowing down when they get to Las Casas Pike because they have to stop there. You might think it's better to shift the entrance from Lofton Road to Las Casas, but actually when we look at that at planning, we will see that it's quite the opposite. If you have people coming in and out of the store on Las Casas Pike, they will be in conflict with people trying to come in and out on Lofton Road. You know, like if I'm sitting at the Dollar General entrance on Las Casas and the neighbors down here on Lofton Road, we're both trying to get out at the same time. If the entrance is on Lofton Road, then for me to get out, I have to yield the right-of-way to somebody on Lofton Road. Whether I'm turning right or left, I have to stop and wait for them. If I'm turning in off Las Casas Pike onto Lofton Road to get into the site, it's a right turn straight in, so that I shouldn't be holding anybody up there. The concern about tractor trailers, again, I think the county will look at that at the site plan process. If there are improvements that need to be made in that stretch of Lofton Road, I'm sure we'll make those. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Are there any questions? Board. Sorry. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Dale Corbett, would you please, our county engineer, would you please come forward? Joe Crowell had some questions he'd like to ask of you.
Mr. Dale, you're familiar with this lot, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
They'll have to bring shot rock in to build up for this store. Am I right or wrong?
That's correct. There's already some shot rock that's brought in.
They will. They will. How much will they elevate it? How much will they raise the lot?
That particular lot is probably, most of it's probably already above the 100-year floodplain.
So it won't have to be raised any, you're saying?
Not very much. They had to build it up before they put that current structure on there to use it originally.
And what you're saying, it will not be raised anymore, that kick water back on the gentleman that's just up here that's got property jointed in the back?
That's correct. Under our current regulations, what the developer has to handle is any water generated off his site. And the way we currently handle that is through a detention area. And because of the new stormwater regs, there's also a retention phase where they have to retain the first inch over a 24-hour period. And so what that does is it slows the water down escaping from the site. So it, theory, doesn't affect the height of the water going through that. The gentleman was right. There's a large volume of water that goes through that area down there. It drains quite a bit of the county. But based on the current design guidelines and the detention areas we put in there, it won't raise that any more than it currently does. Now, it will not address the problem of that water coming through there. It's not designed to have them correct, the water as it currently is comes through there.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions of Dale while he's up here? Thank you, Mr. Corby.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this request? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to say Monday, 6833 Lofton Road, Lascassas, Tennessee. I'd just like to say in regard to the flooding issue, 4 years ago I was notified that FEMA had reclassified my property as high risk, and I was asked to and got flood insurance. I've been paying $400 a year since then.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing, and before we get into any further discussion, we need a motion on this, and we'll get to discussion. We have a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve.
Have a motion of approval. We need a second. Have a second. Discussion.
Yes, sir. I just got comments I'd like to make, Mr. Chairman. Like I say, I live in the Lascassas area. I'm definitely familiar with this site. I'm familiar with the owner and the folks that live out there. I'm familiar with a lot of these folks that are on the petition. It came up to speak against it. So I just, based upon all that, like I said, I'm familiar with the site. I understand they just want to put a store out here, but same time I do understand the feelings and the comments in the petition I've looked at that just says that these folks are just not for the construction of this store whatsoever. So. With all that being said, I can't support this.
Yeah, any other comments?
I guess I have a comment. It's what bothers me, I guess most of all about it is there is a Dollar General, like the lady said, right back up the highway. I know it's further back toward town, but there is a Dollar General, and I just, it's hard for me to understand why they'd want to have another one out here, but that's free enterprise, and that's all I have to say.
Any other comments? I might add this to it. If I had my preference on this, I think we make a mistake in this county, but by not having a lot of different access roads into a site. We see that all over Murfreesboro and all over this county, access sites, so it will help with the traffic movement. Now, we're not here to make that decision. The Planning Commission is going to make that decision for the people out there. But I understand where you're coming from, and I understand you very carefully of what you're saying, and I respect that very much. But from the board standpoint and the requirements that we are under according to law, we've got to decide on whether this is an appropriate use for it or not. No other items in there. And I hear Steve Steele with Huddleston Steel saying they're willing to work with you folks in making sure that this is a safe and appropriate access into the property. And for those of you who are requesting this, and you're saying you're going to have so many automobiles per hour, I hope you're right. I hope this happens out there. And some of these folks that are talking may come to the site to buy some of their groceries. But I think that this may be down the road some before you get that much business going into this site, because most people are going to go to the large box stores to pick up their groceries to begin with, and it's not that far down the road. But anyway, this is free enterprises. It brings jobs in, and that's what we need in our society right now. We need these small jobs, and I think that that's what this board is looking for. And whether this is an appropriate use for it or not, we've got to make that decision. Call the roll, please.
Keith Bratcher.
No.
Joe Crowell.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
We have anything else? That's all. Thank all of you for being here. We appreciate you sharing with us. We are